Hey, Reza Riffs, welcome to the show. Keith Reza here. Couple of things before we get started. Stand-up slowly opening, so check out my website at www.keithreza.com for shows. I'm sure it won't start getting full until June, July, but it's good that it's finally opening. I've been doing some small shows, and it's been fun. You could also book me on Cameo. Keep supporting me on that. www.cameo.keithreza.com or www.cameo.com/KeithReza, something like that. I'm also on Stereo, which I just did with Fred Stoller. That was a good chat. So subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcast. Help the show out. Alan Lee will not be here today. We're recording this pretty early in the morning, and he had to work. It just didn't work out. But follow us on social media at Reza Riffs. We have a great show today. I'm very excited. I tweeted this person 1,000 times until she said yes, and she finally said yes. The great Judy Gold. She's a comedian, a podcaster as well, and an author. She just wrote a book that said, "Yes, I can say that. When they come for the comedians, we are all in trouble." You can pick that up at your bookstore or Amazon, barnesandnobles.com. It's a very good book. It's also an audio book that she actually did. So that would be cool as well. She also has a podcast that you should subscribe, rate, and review to her show called Kill Me Now with Judy Gold. I listen to it when I'm interviewing people, and if she's interviewed people I'm about to interview, it's a really good resource for me. So it's a great show. All right, guys, enjoy Raise the Wrist with Judy Gold, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review, and tell a friend. Bye.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Hey, Judy.
Hold on. Let's fucking fix this right here. Hold on. We're not gonna. No, they're not gonna see me, right?
No, it's just audio. How are you?
I'm really, as you can see, tired and stressed out. I had to look for a fucking parking spot last night, and there are none in the city, so I had to go put my car in a garage. Ugh, I hate it here.
Well, have you ever lived in Los Angeles? It's just as bad.
Yeah, it was better when I lived there in the 90s.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's bad.
Okay. So are clubs opening up over there right now?
Yeah, they're open.
Oh yeah? Did you do a set last night?
I did a couple of sets on Saturday night.
Oh, that's awesome.
I might go out to a set tonight. I don't know.
Oh,
I got 4 hours sleep. Okay.
All right. Well, I just want to, thank you so much for taking time.
Oh, you're welcome.
A busy day to help me out. So it really means a lot to me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to start talking about your book. Yes, I Can Say That, which was obviously written for everybody, but I feel like deep down it was written for comics. Like it was a nice comic memorial thing. So
yeah, well, I was asked to write it by the publisher because all this cancel culture and the fact that comics are held to a higher standard, obviously, than elected officials who say whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
So they asked me to write a book about free speech from the perspective of a comedian. So the book is like it's an argument, it's a polemic, and it's about, each chapter is its own um sort of argument about what we that we should be able to say whatever we want. We're comedians.
Yeah.
So you can joke about anything as long as it's funny. That's it. You got to make a funny joke about it. You got to craft a joke. But you can't tell us, what topics or we can use, or what words we can and can't use. It's ridiculous. And once you take a comedian's intent out of the picture, and just react, oh, I don't like that word, or oh, I don't like this topic, or I don't like this person, you lose everything. Like, you have to realize that if you were a murderer on trial for homicide, your sentence is determined by your intent. What were you thinking? Did you plan it before? And yet we don't give the same consideration to a comedian when they're telling a joke.
Now, when you wrote it, did you think that, because obviously it was bad right when you wrote it, but now it's getting way worse? Did you think it would get worse, or did you think it would just stay the same?
Well, I can't believe we're where we are now. And I keep hoping it gets better. But it's ridiculous. And a lot of it is because of social media, or people believing that their opinions are valid, or that everyone has a soapbox. It's so ridiculous, because in the art of stand-up, you need an audience just to do your work,
Yeah.
and then they turn on you because, oh, you went too far. Well, we don't know how far is too far until we get in front of an audience. An artist doesn't paint a mural like a quarter of the way through and then invite an audience over to say, hey, do you think I should put the tree here and the sun here? The audience informs us, gives us information. But don't come into our home clubs and, start telling us what we can do. It's beyond. And if you go into a comedy club, this is my friend Eddie Sarfati said this, and get upset that you got offended, that is like going on a roller coaster and getting upset that you got scared. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a choice. And you're allowed to be offended, but it's what you do with that. You know what I mean? It's like, you can say, oh, that offended me. All right, well, let's wait for the next joke. Or you can say, that offended me. That person should never be able to do stand-up again. I can't believe they said that. Blah, 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 and that's what's happening.
You know what's also weird is, like, when you go to a club, most clubs, they play like a video of no recording, no, stuff like that, and yet it seems like people are still recording. So it's like, that's how a lot of people are getting in trouble. Like my friend Jamie Kennedy, he was being recorded for going off on a heckler, and it's like, they shouldn't have been recording in the first place.
Right. Well, here's the thing. The thing is that the Comedy Cellar is now making people, put their phones in a packet, in a, you're not allowed to have the phone. The phones should not be allowed in comedy clubs. And the first night I did a set after they had implemented this policy of, people having to put their phones in a sealed packet. I was on stage. I was doing like a long set, and I was on stage, and after about 15, 20 minutes, I was like, oh my God, this is like the old days. Everyone's paying attention. The audience was like a unit. I almost started crying. It was like no one was like bored or looking at their phone or and it was such a different experience. And that's the way it used to be. People came to, hear the comedy, and if they got distracted, they didn't go look at their fucking phones.
Yeah.
So it's that people can't separate the person from their act. That's another element of it. It's also, we have have evolved, so yeah, there are things that people said in their acts 30 years ago that are not funny today because we have evolved. We think differently.
Yeah.
You can't vilify someone for something they said 30 fucking years ago or 20 years ago or even 10 years ago, that you're going to bring that shit up. What about all the stuff you did 30 years ago that you're
Yeah.
embarrassed about? It's this, you know, idea that we're going to apply the way we think now or the way the world is now to that. But what an interesting thing is that the week George Floyd was murdered, one of the top 10 downloads on Spotify was a Richard Pryor bit from 1974 about the police.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so we serve a purpose because we speak truth to power. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we tell the fucking truth and people are afraid of the truth. So yeah.
Would you say, because like I kind of wish like I started doing comedy, but I wasn't even born like in the 80s and the 90s when there was no social media and there was no cell phones. Would you say like it was
Right.
easier and more fun back then? Because now it seems like it's hard and it's not really about how funny it is you are, it's about how many followers you have.
Right. So that is another crappy part of the equation is that you can do a funny video, right? And
Yeah.
it'll go viral. And then a comedy club booker will book you because they want the money. And you don't have 45 minutes of stand-up material or an hour or even 30 minutes of stand-up material. And these people go and they go to a comedy club and they leave thinking, ew, what? Like I don't want to go to a comedy club again. But yeah, it's about, quantity, not quality. And it's about there's no substance. It's awful. That is awful. I mean, I'm telling you, people get Broadway shows based on their actors, but based on their following, how many followers they have. It's like, you know, it's off. And you're right. We used to, I can't even tell you what it was like going on the road. I mean, you've talked to a bunch of comics, but
Yeah.
we had our notebook and I had one suitcase I used to take with me that was like a junk drawer because we didn't have computers or phones. So,
It was word of
you know,
mouth. Like,
well, no, I would have a suitcase full of, books,
yeah.
like clarinet, like stuff to fill my day. Like we just wanted to get on stage and do our stand up. And yeah, it was it. And you know what the other thing is, all these auditions, people audition now on videotape. That's the way you audition for stuff, for acting jobs.
Yeah.
Or, or like SNL. I remember SNL used to have these auditions in the 80s and 90s at the club. You had your 10, 12 minutes and that was it. It didn't matter, whoever went on before you or after you, if someone puked in that was it. You had your time. There was no like redo, you know? It's a whole different, you had to really be on top of your game.
And now, like, you could, like, with the video audition, you could keep redoing it until
Right,
you
right,
feel it's perfect. And it's like, that's
right.
not how comedy is. Comedy's in the moment, right there.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. When I auditioned for stand up for diversity, they did that at a club where, like, scouts will go to the club. And if you bombed, you're not on the show. If you did well, you'll make the next round.
Right.
And now it's like,
Also, sometimes if you bomb, it's usually the comic's fault. But sometimes it's not,
yeah. You ever see like America's Got Talent where like they want the bad comics on, just so they can make fun of them?
It's so awful. It's like, the people that do that, it's like you couldn't do stand up. You wouldn't stand up there and do it. So shut the fuck up,
Yeah. But it's like that, like in my mind, it's like, well, that comic's actually trying, and
Right.
I think it's sad too, but it also gives them that boost career either way.
Right.
It's kind of like selling your soul to the devil, I guess.
Yeah.
So, which one is harder, writing a book or writing a script? And like, what are the forms on that? Like, how did you switch?
Oh, it's interesting. Writing a book is so fucking hard because, it's you have editors and you have deadlines. Uh and as you know, sometimes you're not feeling creative, but it's too fucking bad.
Yeah,
The way I wrote this book was, I mentioned him before. Eddie Sarford is a really good friend of mine, and I would, um, and I think it's the same sort of in script writing. I mean, in script writing, you're writing for characters, and there's all these different storylines, and it's a different, it's so dialogue-y.
yeah,
So for this, I am not, I don't have that organizational thing, and the executive function in my brain is not great. So um the creative function is good. So he would help me sort of streamline. So I would say this is chapter, we did all the chapters about all the points about being a comedian, and we even talk about stereotypes, and then so we would take a chapter and break it down, all the points we were going to use to prove this argument. And we would sit and argue. We would literally sit and try to, because I wanted to make sure each argument was well rounded and I didn't miss anything. So, and then I would write it.
mhm,
He would look it over and give me notes, and I would mostly take his notes. And then that was it. So I had him to bounce off of, because comedy is so fluid and there's so many directions you can go into and out of that, trying to make a point about, because it's also subjective. It's like it's a sense of humor, it's like you're either find sarcasm funny or you don't. It's like a
yeah,
sense of taste. You either like salty food or you don't like salty food. So it's so subjective, and so it's hard to make an argument when it's, there's all this subjectivity attached to it. But it was really fun. It was fun, but then I had so many all nighters where I didn't even sleep because I had to get the chapters in, and it was like being in college again. But I learned a lot,
but
because
you're
there's a
not
lot of
eating
history
Roman
in
though.
it.
Yeah,
Huh?
but you're not eating Roman, so like
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's college with more expensive food,
Yeah. I actually do have a whole drawer full of it, but yeah, my kids like it. So,
Yeah. Um, so like when you're writing, like how do you get inspired to, like, not just like books and scripts, but like also like comedy? Like when you go on stage, do you write on stage or do you write with your jokes set to prepare?
I do mostly on stage. I mean, I do a little combination. Um, I have two parts of my notebook. I think most comics do, where they're writing their sets and then they're writing their um ideas or jokes or new stuff, or notes. And I will often have something come to me and I'll write it down. Um, and then I will, bring that on stage and flesh through it. So, um, which is again the whole point I'm making, that we bring this stuff on stage and we have to work it out there.
Yeah.
Um, and oftentimes we don't know where the line is until we've crossed it. So yeah, I do a lot of, and I get excited. I still get really excited. Like when I'm like, oh, that's going to be brilliant. I can't wait to get on stage and talk about that. Um, so I think it's a little bit of a combo. But mostly because there's such a musicality in stand up that, one syllable can ruin a joke.
Yeah.
So, getting out and sort of playing it, if you will, like really helps you to develop it. I'm not one to sit at a computer all day and just try to write jokes. I have to get on stage and talk it out.
Yeah, same here. Like, but the thing that I realize about stand-up comedy, especially since this year with the whole lockdowns, is you're only as good as your last show. You know what I mean? And I remember before lockdowns, I bombed. You know what I mean? Like my very last show before I did pretty bad. Then at lockdowns, and it's going for a year. I was like, oh my god. So I was thinking, even though there's this coronavirus thing going on, an election, all this stuff, I was thinking in my head, maybe I'm a terrible comic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you just got to get back on stage. You can't think
Uh,
like that.
no,
It's
but
like,
that's
yeah,
what I
but it
was
does.
going
I
through.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people do think that you're only as good as your last set, but you're not.
Yeah. And if it makes you, it made me feel better because I did my first set last week and I did pretty well, so I was like,
See? Yeah.
So, but yeah. And then it's so weird how like clubs now, like they're opening up for 25% capacity where like I'm so broke that I'll take it. You know what I mean? But like, I don't
Well,
know if the
I think
audience
everyone, no matter what your socioeconomic status is, if you're a comedian, you'll take it. They're 30% here, 33% here. I don't even care. I
Yeah.
did a couple weeks ago a 300-seat theater, and they allowed like 50 people in or something. I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I just want to be on a stage.
Well, you also did a drive-ins because I saw you.
Yeah,
on
I did
Twitter.
the drive-in movie theater.
Yeah.
On the back of a flatbed truck, yeah, where the audio goes into the car, and then the audience like laughs because it was cold, so the windows weren't open, but they laugh by flashing their headlights. So I did a gig in Pennsylvania, Soul Joel's. It's an outdoor tent. The guy who owns it is just a doll. They had heated lamps. It must have been like in the 30s. I was fucking freezing, and I did like an hour and 20. I was just so happy to be on stage. But yeah, and people came out. People were sitting in blankets and like down coats, under heaters, bringing their own beer because they just want to laugh. We need to laugh.
Yeah. And then I wanted to ask you about your acting too. When you get in acting stuff, like how do you transition that? Because you're a comic first, and then like, is it hard for you?
Well, I always took acting classes since I was in college, and I wanted to make sure I was a good actor. Like I wanted to learn the craft, and so yeah, I haven't been offered a lot of opportunities because I think the way I look, I'm very tall and big, and so I'm not that big. I mean, why do I say that? Anyway, I mean, I am big, but yeah, so I've always taken that seriously. So, and I as like within the past year, I've taken an acting class via Zoom. So it's a skill, and you have to practice it. And so I don't get the opportunities I wish I had, but I want to be prepared. And it's a whole different art form because it's about listening. Comedy is not about listening.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
about telling.
I saw you.
But there's so many good actors that are comedians. There are some really great ones. I mean, there's some that aren't, but there's some really. I mean, Robin Williams was an amazing actor.
Yeah, I think Jim Carrey's also an amazing actor. Like, but what I was
all right, let's
say,
do the women now. Let's do the women. Amy Schumer's is a great. Margaret. There's so many.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi is she's incredible.
Yeah. And but I was gonna say, I saw you in, I don't remember the name of the movie, but I saw you in a movie with Meatloaf, and it was like a western.
Oh my god, it was called The Battle of Lucy Whipple. It was based on a children's book. Yeah. I played a woman disguised as a man. My usual part. Yeah.
So what was it like? Because Meatloaf's a singer, but he's actually a good actor too.
Yeah. I mean, that was so long ago. It was fun. Glenn Close was in that. That was a really amazing cast. Chloe Webb. Who else? What's his
It
name?
was
He died. Um,
he was the
Wilford
judge.
Brimley was in it.
Yeah, and then the judge, the cop from My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah, yeah. He passed away. What the fuck was his name? That's
He was
now I
also
gotta
in
look up.
Runaway Jury. Bruce something.
Wait, I'm telling you right now because I'm looking it up.
I want to say Bruce.
But that was fun. That was fun.
Yeah.
That was so fun. 2001. That was. It was okay. Let's see the cast. Cast. Jenna Malone. Oh yeah. Bruce McGill. Yeah, he's great. He is such a good actor.
Yeah, he is.
Let's see. Chloe Webb, I love her.
Judy
Oh,
Gold.
Robert Pastorelli. He was great too. He died. He was great. But yeah. Oh my god, that's so funny. I haven't thought about that thing forever.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring it up.
Yeah, it's all right. Now it brings back memories of when I was skinny. Yeah.
But like how was like working with Meatloaf and Glenn Close? Like how was that?
Well, Glenn Close is so I love her. She's such an interesting person and she's warm and I don't know, she's great. And so talented. Meatloaf is Meatloaf. I just remember this. I can't believe I'm telling this story, but I remember there was a Glenn had in her place she was staying. We were filming in Utah, had a ping pong table, and I played ping pong against Meat. That's what they called him. And he was like a ping pong champion, and I beat him on one of the games, and he was so mad. But then he beat me the next 2 games. So I was like, well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And then I wrote on the craft services board where they write the it's like a chalkboard and they write what's on the menu. I wrote Judy beat me at ping pong and he got so mad at me. So but yeah, he's a big personality and he's also not on my side of the politics.
Yeah. Well, I see that's the one thing I don't understand about politics where like how everyone is because like I don't really care who's on what side. I just like their art. You know what I mean? Like John Cusack,
Right.
for example, hates Trump. I'm a huge John Cusack fan. Christy
Right.
Swanson loves Trump. I'm a huge Christy Swanson fan. Like
Right.
who's it to tell that their views I can't like their
Well, that's it, separating the art from the artist.
Yeah.
But I have such because of who I am. I'm gay. And I am Jewish. I know I never talk about that. Just because of who I am and because I lived through the AIDS crisis and I sort of became an activist during that time. And you realize so much hypocrisy and we could go into Trump, but I think he is the most horrible. He's a disgusting human being, disgusting. And the way he spoke and how many people died. I mean, there's just I can't even go on. And if you're talking about speech, the fact that he got away Pocahontas, I mean, the shit he said and got away with, and comics, get canceled for someone being offended at something they said, 25 years ago. He destroyed this country and this insurrection. I mean, it's just awful. So for me, I try because I try to separate it, but he is such a polarizing figure for me. It's like when the government has an effect on your life, like if you're a gay person or a trans person or a person with a disability or a person of color or I mean or an immigrant or a poor person. I mean, when the government um makes decisions for and or a woman,
Yeah.
makes decisions. No, you say you want less government, and yet you want to control who I marry, what I do with my body, how I vote. It's like I don't know. I have really strong feelings about this. So I do for me. I can say, wow, that person's a good artist. I can't believe they're a Trump supporter. And it definitely does um skew the way I think. And it's like also like the Michael Jackson thing. It's like after I saw that documentary, I mean, I grew up with Michael Jackson. Now when I hear the music, not Jackson 5 stuff, but the music of that period of time,
Yeah, like just
when
Michael.
yeah, I do like I do have a different feeling, but
Yeah.
then I write about Coco Chanel in my book, who was embedded with the Nazis. I mean, she was a Nazi, and yet if I go to synagogue on Rosh Hashanah, there's, so many people wearing Chanel scarves and Chanel, um, purses and shoes and suits. But then there's also that idea that, you know, we don't know what people do in their personal, like there's a lot we don't know about people,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
artists. So I don't know, but yeah, the
And
Trump thing, he is just, I think he is such a horrible person. So, and his family, and now he cheated these people out of, he's just so, and also I'm, I'm in New York. No one here voted for him. It's so funny because we were like, oh my God, we've had to live with him for so long, you know,
oh yeah, because
not
he
even,
was from New York, right? Yeah.
yeah. And,
Yeah.
and he didn't even win in his polling station. So where he lived. So, but
Yeah.
he spoke to some people. He riled people up and people believe him. He's a liar. I hate liars.
Yeah. I do too. That's why I don't talk to my dad.
Yeah, he's a liar.
I was just trying to make you laugh.
Yeah.
I wrote a joke to try and break the ice, but I forgot to tell you when it first started. I was going to say, so Judy, you and I have a lot in common. We're both comedians and we both like the ladies.
Hey now, that is so hilarious.
I don't know. But I wanted to talk about your podcast, Kill Me Now. How do you feel? Because I feel podcasting makes you a better comic too. Do you feel that as well?
I've been doing comedy stand up for so long. I think maybe I could be if I was just starting out. For sure. I never thought of it that way because I've been podcasting for what, 6 years now.
Yeah.
And I've been doing stand up since I'm 19 years old. So, um, for me, it's just an extension.
Yeah.
But I bet it would help. Um, I bet it would help newer comics. Yeah, for sure.
Who's the toughest person you've ever had to interview?
Oh wow. Oh, I don't know. It's funny. There's some people you think are going to be really open, you know what I mean, and
Fantastic.
talkative,
Yeah.
and you're like, wait, that was answer was like in 10 seconds, and but I don't know. I think it's really the people um who don't want to be open, who are guarded, who are, you know, armed. You want to comedy disarms people. So that's why people feel threatened by it, because it's a weapon in a way. So I don't know who was the hardest person. It's more people I thought were going to be hard and were like
Pretty easy.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I
I've
always
had way more of that. Yeah.
yeah. I have where like because I usually have a sidekick who he couldn't make it today because he had work, but we usually have a co-host and like we listen to all our guests' interviews, so we try not to ask the same questions and stuff.
Right.
And then we always think, oh, Carlos Mencia is gonna be hard.
Yeah.
Like, so, and it was like we interviewed him, and I talked to him for 45 minutes, and I asked him once about stealing jokes, and I felt pretty proud because I feel like that's all he gets asked. You know what I mean?
What did he say?
Well, I didn't ask him.
Oh.
We
Oh,
were
you
just
didn't ask him. Oh,
yeah,
okay. Got you. Yeah.
but I feel like maybe I should have.
Yeah.
Uh, but no, the power of Twitter is fantastic, and I thank you so much for responding to my tweet. You know, I
Oh,
really
you're welcome.
yeah. Because when I saw who your publicist was, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna write them. I'll just tweet you. Like,
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
all right. So last two questions, and then I'll let you go. What's Rosie O'Donnell like to work with?
Oh my God. Did you really? That's like asking Carlos Mencia about stealing jokes.
That's why I didn't want to like hang up.
Oh my God. It's so annoying when you have your whole career and then you get asked about, I get asked about Rosie all the time. It's like, it's so fucking annoying. Like I get people calling me going, "Hey Judy, how are you? I'm working on this great project." And I'm like, "Oh, really? Yeah. It's really fun. Do you have Rosie's number?" It's like fucking shut the fuck up. Rosie, I love Rosie. And I have to say, and I loved working on that show. It was like one of the fun parts of my life, best parts of my life too. I mean, the fact that that show we were all at certain points during that show we were like I would talk to John McDaniel who was the um the musical, he was the piano player but he was the whole head of the whatever the hell band leader, whatever the fuck, Judy, anyway. um and we would sit there in rehearsals at like 7 o'clock in the morning and be like, this show is so gay and no one has any idea that everyone like so many people on the show are gay that it's like a but it was the late 90s,
Yeah,
mid 90s, that you couldn't be out. um and it was just so funny that it was such a phenomenal hit because it was such pure entertainment and we're all just gay kids playing. So um, I loved working with her, and I have to also say that the people who have given me jobs in my career have been women.
yeah,
Um, Margaret Cho, Rosie, Pamela Adlon, um, Bette Midler. Uh, it's yeah. So I don't know. I had a great time working with Rosie.
awesome. And then my last question is, what piece of advice would you give struggling artists to continue doing comedy and following their dreams?
Well, you have to realize that it is a journey. It is like you were saying, feel like I'm as good as my last set. It's a process and you have to enjoy it because, I've been doing this for so long and I'm 58 years old and I still get on that subway with my notebook to go down to the Comedy Cellar to try out new bits. And it makes me just as happy as it did, 35 years ago. So, um, there are things you can't compare yourself to another comedian because we're all different. So you know, uh, that's a destructive thing to do. Um, just tell the truth and get stage time and don't let anyone tell you what you can and cannot say, and be true to yourself because there's no one else like you. Um, it's such a powerful art form. And we're so important. We're such an important part of American culture. I mean, if you look at any talk show, with a group of people, there's always like an expert, even on, you know, on these MSNBC or CNN, you know, they'll have an expert, they'll have a pundit, they'll have, you know, a host, and they'll have a comedian, and they always have a comedian because we will break the tension and we will tell the truth and pick up the pieces when they fall. And you can really, you can change the way someone thinks through stand up, through
Yeah.
comedy, you know? It opens the world. It's a unifier. I mean, to get, you know, you get on stage, you have Asperger's. People will say, "Oh, that guy was really funny." And they'll meet another person with Asperger's and be like, "Oh, I know all about. Yeah, I'm fine with." You know, like you open up the world because you get to see the world through these people's eyes and how they navigate through, you know, and it's like when I came out in the mid 90s as a gay parent, you know, and I was talking about my kids and being a lesbian, and people would be watching and thinking, "Oh, oh, I forgot she was." It's the same shit I go through with my kids, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so it definitely brings people together. It's definitely a weapon, which is why people feel threatened by it. Um, but we need satire and humor in this country because it is the bastion of free speech. It is really the fact that we get to make jokes here is one of the greatest things about, and about anything, is one of the greatest things about this country.
You know, it's the reason why I became a comedian is because I always just wanted to make people laugh and stuff.
Right.
And my whole life, people always said, "Oh, because I was very nonverbal, that I couldn't talk." And then I learned how to talk, and then I couldn't do comedy, so then I learned comedy. Then I toured with my hero Norm, you know, and
Mhm.
I did podcast and all that stuff. So I've had a lot of no's of people saying that I can't do something. So I look at it as like, you don't take no for an answer, you work around the no. And I know that sounds kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
weird to say,
No,
but
no, no. No,
yeah,
I've been told no 5,000 more than ever. I mean, that's the no, you're too this, you're too that. No, we already have a woman. No, you're this. No. Fuck you.
yeah.
That's what I say. Go
You gotta
fuck
change
yourself.
the no to fuck you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Judy, where can the folks at home follow you?
I'm at Judy Gold, JEWDYGOLD on Twitter and Instagram. And I have a, you know, my book you can get anywhere. They sell books, or you can go to my website, judygold.com, JUDYGOLD.com, and that there, you know, there are links for the book and stuff. And yeah, my podcast, and yeah, whatever, and everything I'm doing, and I think I'm gonna go take a nap.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and thank you to Brittany. It was
Oh, thanks
really,
for having me. Good luck with everything.
yeah, it was an honor talking to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys, that was my interview with Judy Gold. Subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcast, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Take it easy.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.